1. This was when I was around 9 or 10, and is a story my mum talks about often with pride in her heart. I was with my mum heading home from Kaleidoscope. It's a mental health doctor in England, specializing in autism and ADHD in children. And we were sitting on the bus. Before getting on the bus, I had fallen over and scraped my knee, so Mum got me a lolly as a reward for being a big boy and not crying. Not long into the bus journey was the entrance of the entitled mother and her entitled child, who looked about the same age as me. They walked to where we were sitting on the bus and just stood there. I think the EM was staring daggers at my mum, who just ignored her. The kid noticed I had a lolly in my mouth and started to cry that he wanted a lolly and it wasn't fair.
"Excuse me, little boy, would you give my child your lolly? You don't need both a seat and a sweet."
"No, I got this for being a big boy. He can get his own."
Don't be so selfish."
She tries to take my lolly. My mum slaps her hand and tells her to fuck off from her child. EM scoffed at this, and for all of 5 seconds the world was at peace. Until the entitled mother clunked me in the back of the head with her handbag and pulled my lolly out of my mouth, just as I started to wail in pain. She then gave it to her kid, who proceeded to say,
"It's wet,"
and throw it on the floor. My mum said, "Did you just fucking hit my kid? I'll have you charged with child abuse and have yours taken away from you."
"Not before I call the police on you for beating your filthy child. Look at the scrapes on him. You're clearly a bad mother."
I was crying hysterically at this point because my head hurt and I had no lolly. Rest in peace, Cherry Lollipop 2011 to 2011. And the entitled kid was crying because he wanted a lollipop, while my mother and the entitled mother were screaming that they'll call the cops and have us taken from our respective parents. The bus driver stops the bus and informs my mom and the EM that we are making a disturbance and one of us will have to leave the bus. This started both my mother and the entitled mother on a path of war, screaming at the bus driver that the other should be kicked off, and both of them wanting his full name so they could report his incompetence with the supervisor. So we both get kicked off the bus. EM scoffed and said it's my mum's fault for being a terrible parent before walking away and dragging her kid behind. You'd think that would be the end of it, but no, it didn't. My mum followed her to the next bus stop and would repeatedly scold her for the smallest things like, "Did you know it's bad for your children when you drag them?" or "You shouldn't let them walk on the grass, you know?" Or my personal favorite, "You really should hold their hand crossing the street because of carbon monoxide." The entitled mother started to scream again and pretty much asked what she would have to do to make my mum leave her and her child alone. And,
"We don't deserve your harassment."
"Then you shouldn't have hit my child."
"I wouldn't have hit it if you were a good parent. I bet he doesn't even want to be with you because you beat him every day."
"I have never once hit any of my children, and the fact that you whacked him around the back of the head with your handbag just to get a lolly off of him shows how bad of a parent you really are."
"Go away or I'll call the police."
"Go ahead, call the police. I'll call social services." They both pull out their phones and both call the police, my mum saying a woman has pushed me off the bus, and the EM screaming that my mum had threatened to stab her and her child. The police came and started asking what happened, my mum and EM screaming back and forth about why one and other are bad parents that should rot in prison. One of the officers knelt down and asked me and the kid what happened, to which EM and my mum objected too, because they have no right talking to their children. I said that the lady had hit me and stole my lollipop while pointing at EM, to which she started with, "He's lying, his mother forced him to say that, take her to prison." To which the kid responded,
"No, he's not, Mummy, you smacked him, and you gave me his lolly but I threw it away because it was icky and wet."
I can't remember what EM had to say about that, but my mum is adamant she was stuttering and couldn't get out a sentence. She got arrested for assaulting a minor, and the police asked my mum if she wanted to press charges, to which she said no, it's not worth the trouble over a lollipop. To this day I ask my mum why she reacted the way she did, and why she didn't press charges. She always says she was having a bad day and seeing an entitled mother suffer just improved her mood. I never saw that kid again and never saw that mother either, because we started going to a different Kaleidoscope that was closer to our house. 2. I live in a very small village in England. Village doesn't quite cut it, it's basically a lane in the sticks. There's about 10 houses in the immediate vicinity, and a few farms. We are in a lane, which comes off of a back lane, which comes off of a slightly bigger back lane, which is a 20-minute drive to the nearest town. This means we don't often worry about cars, and a lot of people have their doors open during the day, and you can say hello as you walk past. Also means the dogs can come and go as they please and play together. There is a lady who lives a few houses down. She has 2 dogs and 4 kids. 2 older boys, approximately 10 years old, and a younger boy and girl, who this post is about. Estimate the entitled girl is about 5 or 6, and the entitled boy about 7. The kids sometimes drop by to see my dad, late 70s, so they can play with his dog. They sometimes bring their own dog. I hadn't met them before as I moved back home a couple months ago. Anyway, this particular day my dad was in the garden, so the kids were hanging out and petting the dog. I went out, and when I came back I couldn't see them. Dad says they went into the house, but they've been a while. Can I go check on them? He's in poor health and struggles sometimes. I go into the kitchen and they're opening all the cupboards. I ask if they're okay, and they say they're looking for the dishwasher to put their cups in it. I chuckle and say we don't have one and to chuck them in the sink. Then they start doing things that kids do and said,
"Do you know we've never been upstairs? We've been downstairs loads of times, and we know the downstairs so well. We wish we knew what the upstairs looks like."
I'm like, well, it's super messy, but let's go take a look. And you can even see my Harry Potter stickers. So I take them up really quickly, show them my room, bathroom, Dad's room, and finally the workshop. I explain the workshop has dangerous tools, so we will just look from the door. Then we go back outside. I go out for a walk, come back, and Dad says again, "The kids just went inside, can you make sure they aren't in the workshop?" And sure enough, they were. I asked them to politely leave, but they acted like I wasn't even there. I decided on a distraction technique instead, and told them I make jewelry, and if they come downstairs they can have a piece each. This does the trick. We go to the living room, and I pour out all the jewelry on the floor. I've done this with kids before, and they usually examine lots of different pieces, find one they like, and ask me if that one is okay to have. Not this time. The kids started their own piles of up to 20 pieces each, and started putting them on and showing each other their new jewelry. I'm like, hold up. You can't take all of those. I said you can have one each, so we need to pick your absolute favorites. The entitled boy looks through his and proudly says,
"Here's my favorites."
Then says to his sister,
"I've picked 6, so you can have 6 too."
No. Entitled girl says,
"I can't pick 6, but I've picked these."
12, not a chance. I basically kept pinching pieces when they weren't looking, convinced them some pieces weren't kids' sizes, and think they finally got down to 3 each. My dad sees me trying to steal my own jewelry back and tells the kids it's time to leave so we can have dinner. A lie. They kinda dragged their feet but did leave. They had been there for 2 hours at that point, basically in my dad's care, which is risky as it is, because if there was an accident upstairs, my dad would struggle to go up the stairs. Plus, my dad has never agreed to be their guardian or sitter. The lady had no idea if I would be in or not, and I hadn't even met the kids before. My dad and I were in the kitchen, and I was in shock, laughing. What the heck just happened? Where's their mum? Dad says, oh, this happens all the time, they just waltz in. I then realized that the kids never thanked me for the jewelry, and Dad said they were used to getting what they want. As if on cue, he turns around and spots entitled girl who had walked back into our house, and was now sneaking into our living room trying to take more jewelry. Actually couldn't believe it. Oi, what are you doing? Says Dad.
Nothing!
He kicked her out a second time, and I literally ran to the door and locked it. The dog will just have to bark when she wants letting in. I was not risking another invasion. Still haven't spoken to the mum. Oh, and later on I saw them down the lane, so they hadn't even gone home, and the mum still hadn't checked on them. I'd maybe understand if they were the older boys, but these two were quite young. Although the older boys are entitled in their own way, they wreak havoc, ripping down the trees to have branch fights, and leaving the rows in absolute state, plus shouting obscenities at people. 3. Context. I work at the Bullseye Mart. Just past my 5-year anniversary there, actually, so I'm pretty familiar with how our systems work. Like our pickup system. Once someone places an order, it can take anywhere between 2 to 4 hours for it to be ready for pickup. This allows for factors like arrival into our system, prep time, pick time, and other mishaps that happen in retail life. So basically, if you order something at 8 AM, then your order will be ready anywhere between 10 AM and 12 PM. There is a warning about this when people order online right on the page. But as it turns out, a lot of people are apparently a 19-year-old named Jared. So I show up for my 8-hour service desk shift at 11 a.m., to massive relief. 60% of our opening staff are off due to COVID shot-related symptoms, and the church crowd, the bane of my existence, is starting to trickle in, resigning myself to a long day and a daiquiri when I get home. 23-year-old, baby. I get to work. 5 minutes in, the phone starts ringing. I don't pay much attention at first, thinking maybe one of the managers will pick it up when they notice the line curving towards service desk. That's when I notice one manager hopping on a lane to help line bust and another pushing an order cart. Well, that doesn't bode well. It can't be too bad, right? Hey, why do I suddenly hear boss music? As I'm working on the line that just keeps growing, the phone keeps ringing and ringing and ringing. If it stops ringing for a minute, it starts ringing again. For 45 minutes, the phone keeps ringing. I call out over the walkie for anyone, to at least answer it, but we have literally no one. Finally, once the checkout line is clear, my friend, Autumn, rushes over and answers the phone, and this is the conversation I hear. Bullseye Mart service desk, sorry about the wait, how can I help? Uh-huh, okay. What's the name on the order? Alright, let me check really quick. Sorry ma'am, it's not ready yet, but it says your order should be ready within the next 30 minutes or so. Oh, I'm not sure if... I'm not saying it's wrong, I just... Hold on a moment. Autumn turns to me. Can the customer come in and get their order if it's not ready? Still working order returns, but still trying to help. So the customer can technically come in and get the item they ordered in the store if they know we have it. Is just they would have to cancel their original online order since they would be technically two separate transactions. Otherwise, it's recommended they wait until they get the email saying the order is ready. Okay, she tells the customer on the phone what I just told her. Alrighty then. Again, sorry for the long wait. Have a nice day. Goodbye. And so that was the end of it. Hey, did the boss music just get louder? 10 minutes later, a woman in her mid-30s carrying a 6-month-old daughter in her arms walks up to the service desk. By the way, this is the Karen of the story. Hi, how can I help you?
I called a bit ago about to pick up an order. The girl on the phone says it wasn't ready yet, but I was wondering if it was ready now.
I remember Autumn told her it would be another half hour at least before it was ready, but not wanting to be rude, let me check. What's the name on the order? She gives her last name. Alright, let me see. Shock! Horror! Not at all surprising! Her order of an infant life jacket isn't ready yet. Sorry, ma'am, it's not ready yet. Let me just...
But I ordered it at 8 a.m. when the store opened. Why isn't it ready yet?
Well, you might have ordered it at 8 a.m., but our system might not have got it until maybe 9 a.m.
Why not?
Because I'm fairly certain Bullseye Mart's pickup servers are overseas.
Specifically ordered this as a bring to my car pickup. I didn't want to bring my daughter in the store, and now look what you made me do.
Side note, in my state, we're around 50% immunized against COVID as a population, and we just opened up immunization to 13 and up. Not to mention, at this Bullseye Mart, if you've been completely immunized against COVID, it's your choice if you want to wear a mask or not. I've only had the first shot, so I still mask up. This woman wasn't wearing a mask, so either she's been immunized or she never liked wearing masks in the first place. 50-50 shot. Also, I've seen babies younger than hers in the store since at least May last year. If you'd like, I can call back to our order placement crew and check to see if they have your order in cart.
Why didn't you do that in the first place?
Sighing and shooting the baby in her arms a pitying look, I call back and ask if anyone has an infant life vest in their carts. My manager, Nevaeh, answered and said it was in her cart, but it would be another 5 to 10 minutes before it was ready, as she was in the middle of a pick batch. Karen, who overheard, starts getting really mad.
Why can't she just bring it up to me now? She knows it's mine, so she should just give it to me.
Ma'am, our pick batches are set up so that we only know what items to grab first. We don't know who has what order until we go to bag and label it. Besides, our system says it's not ready, so we couldn't just give it to you. It'd be like Amazon delivering you a package but not charging you.
I ordered the item. I waited all morning for it. I want my item.
And as we told you on the phone, it wasn't ready yet. Now either you can wait the 10 minutes and it will be ready, or you can cancel this order and go back and get another one, and go through self-checkout or a regular line.
I didn't want to come into the store. My daughter's going to get COVID because of you. I want to speak to your manager.
That woman you overheard talking about your order? Yeah, that was my manager, Nevaeh. She's the only one on the floor right now.
I want my item now. I want compensation for this awful customer service. I want!
At this point, I notice another line of people forming behind her, all looking fairly annoyed they have to wait. This Karen is still screaming about the injustice of how her order isn't ready, even though she ordered it and blah blah blah. So, to get her to calm down and get out of my line, I quickly give her a free $15 gift card as an apology. I still feel dirty doing this, but she left me no choice, and asked her to wait off to the side. She happily accepts the gift card and begrudgingly steps out of the line to wait. Not even 5 minutes later, Nevaeh rushes up and hands the woman her life vest, and Karen flounces off before Nevaeh can finish her sentence. Later, when the closing manager came in, she asked me what happened with her in the gift card I gave her. After explaining the situation, all she did was suggest that next time something like this happens, I cap the gift card at $10, which I can understand, as I didn't even want to give her that gift card in the first place. I still feel bad for that baby girl, growing up with a mother like that. 4. So my boyfriend and I went camping this weekend at a campground, and we met this couple and their son, maybe between 7 and 11 years old. I don't know, I'm bad at telling kids' ages. While we were setting up our tent, they were setting up at the plot next to ours. We had some polite small talk, and we mentioned that we bought a tie-dye kit to tie-dye a couple of t-shirts while we were there. It was really just a small cheap tie-dye kit, and we both brought 2 shirts to make. The mother immediately got excited and said her son would love to tie-dye with us later that night. We were caught off guard, but I was sure there'd be some extra dye, and I didn't really care that much, so I said sure. A few hours of hiking and fishing go by, and then we're ready to go back and settle into our campsite, eat dinner and start making our t-shirts. We ran the corner towards the camp, and it was as if this kid was waiting for us. He was right at the path and then sprinted back to his campsite. Once we got closer, his mother stomped over to our trail, and this is how the conversation went.
Where have you been? We've waited hours.
We've been hiking, but he can come use it in a little bit once we set it up. I was totally caught off guard and turned off that she even approached me that way, but I blew it off again. Like, did this lady expect me to alter my plans all day to cater to her kid? We get to our campsite, and I'm about to start dinner, but this woman and her kid are just staring at us, so I decide to just get the dye ready so he can bring his stupid t-shirt over and leave us alone so we can eat in peace. I bring the dye out, and they come over to our table, empty-handed.
Looks great. He's a small or a medium.
What? I don't have anything for him to use. I thought you had your own t-shirt that you wanted to dye.
No, you're the ones who brought the tie-dye kit. We waited all day for you to get back. And you're saying you don't even have a t-shirt for him?
I don't know what to tell you. We only have 4 shirts to make for ourselves.
I can't believe you told him that he could dye and got his hopes up. He waited for you all day. Can I have one of yours?
Absolutely not.
It's not funny. Don't laugh at me.
At that point, I'm just like, whatever, lady, and we keep snickering at her until they storm back to their campsite, where she starts playing literal death metal music full blast. It's hilarious. This chick was insane, throwing a full-blown tantrum and glaring at us from afar. An hour or so later, the ranger comes over to our tent and says he got a report that we were drinking alcohol. We were drinking alcohol, but they typically don't care unless we're disturbing other campers, and we were just 2 people sitting and eating dinner quietly. I told him what happened, and he thought it was hilarious, and I jokingly said that I'd like to make a counter-report about EM's music. He was like, hell yeah, I'll do that, and went over to her. She threw a fit when he told her to turn that shit down, and I heard her screaming about how we are partying and drinking, and how dare he confront her and not us. Eventually her husband turned her music off while she was mid-screech. Then she sulked into her tent and never came back out. And the ranger came back over to our site for a beer after dark. We considered calling her poor husband over for a beer too, but decided not to poke the bear. 5. I work part-time as a waitress during my school holidays at a nearby restaurant. All's good. I enjoy the people I work with, hours and pay are reasonable. For context, I'm Asian and fairly skinny. On one particularly busy lunch day, I just got out from the back and a table of 3 ladies and 2 kids were signaling to get my attention. I nodded at them and headed to the table shortly after. I notice their food is finished. Yes, do you need your bill?
Bill? You expect us to pay after such poor service?
Says her friend. I'm sorry, was there something unsatisfactory?
Food was lousy. I called you over to make a complaint. We're not going to pay for this.
I'm sorry to hear that it wasn't up to your expectations, ma'am, but you can't have a meal for free. Your complaint is noted. The third EM of the group now pipes up.
How dare you say such a thing? I know the owner of this restaurant. I'll call him right now and report your rude behavior.
Now, my boss Jay is female. As I was with the table of entitled moms, I could see Jay at the far corner of the restaurant, happily enjoying her lunch. EM3 pulls out her phone, smirking at me as she puts her phone to her ear.
Listen, one of your employees has been very rude. Yeah, the anorexia looking,
and here she used a term that made me sound like an imperfect suit of armor.
Fire her. Oh, and the food was terrible. You had to fire the chef too. We won't have to pay, yeah?
At the time, I didn't realize what she had called me as I was keeping an eye on Jay, who never answered her phone. Coworker Kaz passed by, hearing what she said. EM3 smiling, then tells me I'm fired. It was quite funny pretending to call my boss, but I didn't call her out on it just yet. What's happening here? Says Kaz. They aren't satisfied with their food and refuse to pay.
You're also now fired, so stop talking and leave. Let your friend do the job you can't do right.
It's very rude of you to call her that, ma'am. I'm gonna have to ask you to pay for your meal and leave.
Oh, we have another stuck-up ass, huh? Why are you so fucking rude? We're loyal customers. We just wanted to give helpful criticism about the food served here, and this is how you treat us?
I've never seen any of these 3 ladies before. The kids look mighty uncomfortable at all that's happening. I look at Kaz and he looked over to Jay.
People like you are such a thorn in society. I should get both of you fired.
EM3 groaned as if she was displeased and muttered the word, well, I won't say what she said, but it was a racial slur that white people often use for Asian people. I hear it out loud and clear this time, and my eyes widened and I realized she meant me. Ma'am, please stop being racist, and if you continue to refuse paying...
I know the owner here. He should never hired any of you worthless pieces of shits.
This, of course, attracts the attention of everyone in the restaurant, Jay included. She gets up from her seat and starts to walk over.
Hey, you.
Me?
Yeah, those earrings, take them off.
Why?
Do you have any idea how customer service works? It's compensation for the terrible food and terrible service from you. You shouldn't be able to afford them anyway, and it would be perfect for my daughter.
My earrings aren't anything flashy, super simple stud type. I haven't got a clue on what she thought of its worth. I got really angry for her to be demanding such an outrageous thing. The poor kid is about to say something to her mom, but thinks better and looks away. I really feel bad for her. I also feel like I should have said something and let Jay handle it, but I lost it. You have no right to ask me for the earrings. They belonged to my mother. Lying about knowing my boss? Bullshit on that too. Do you think it's right to stomp on other people? To call them names? EM2 starts nudging over to EM3 to call the police to report my harassment. Jay swoops in, grabbing her phone. That won't be necessary, for I have already done so. You're going to sit there until they come, and you'll leave my employees alone. EM3 is practically screaming for her phone back, calling Jay a bunch of names. She was livid. Again, she pulls the stunt of knowing the owner, thinking Jay is just a manager, and threatens to get her fired too. I know the owner. That's me. I'd advise for you to kindly shut up now until the police arrive. All of the EMs go red in the face, and I think I saw one of the kids practically die inside of embarrassment. I still very much wanted to punch EM1 if it weren't for Kaz holding me back. When the cops arrive, the EMs immediately try to push their overly exaggerated story of what happened. One even accused Kaz of touching their daughter. I think I saw steam coming out of his ears. Luckily, several witnesses called out their bluff, and our statements were also taken. The EMs sulkily paid for their meal, and they were escorted out by the police. I don't know whatever happened to them. I'm sure Jay had pressed for more on them, but I never saw those ladies again. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to the Impractical Proudness of Parents, IPOP number 60. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you could please give the video a like or leave a comment, either of those is lovely and helpful. And if you haven't subscribed already, then please do so. Now, for our birthday corner. It's become kind of a regular segment recently, hasn't it? It has come to my attention, some people, one person, don't like it, and that's fair enough. But I'm not going to stop doing it. You don't take away things people like just because a small number of people are unhappy. That's not how you service your fan base. Okay, right, now, who do we have today? We have two people. There is, well, I call them Raphael, but their actual name is Raphaeltoid. And also to Andrew Phillips. I won't say how old either of them are. Raphael did tell me how old they were, but it's a secret. I've been sworn to secrecy. And Andrew didn't mention, so I'm assuming that's also a secret. Right. Now, here we go. I've never done it for two people at once before. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Raphael. Dear Andrew. Happy birthday to you. There we go. Right, now, I did impose some restrictions yesterday about doing it about a week before, but I've set up, because I'm getting a few of them now, I have set up a little folder just marked birthdays in my emails now. So just send it whenever you like. I'll put it in there because I check before every video. And I'll delete the ones that are done when they're done, so I'll be able to keep track of them. So it's all good. You're welcome to send it in advance now if you want. I should probably have done that in the first place. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.